Is there a sense right now that the Department of Justice is taking more of an interest right now in those big technology companies, given some of the headlines that we've seen over the course of the last year with regard to artificial intelligence and everything else?
It's a great question, and I appreciate it. So certainly this administration has prioritized restoring competition to markets across the entire U.S. economy, including big tech. As you know, we just finished a trial late last year involving Google Search and Google Search advertising markets, and we filed a case in early 2023 alleging that Google maintained its monopoly illegally in certain digital advertising technologies. So certainly we're active on that beat. But we're active across the entire U.S. economy. And I think Google Search is the most important case about the Internet since the advent of the Internet. And I think it's really a case about the future, including foundation models and other interesting products and services in the artificial intelligence space.
All right, Doha, let's pivot you back to the news that is of the record, on the record, and at hand here, and that's the airline industry. What exactly was the main thrust behind why the Justice Department really wanted to oppose this? I ask because there's a narrative out there among analysts that Spirit Airlines, if it were to stay economically viable, could help that story that the DOJ is putting forth. But what happens if some of these airlines no longer exist in the future? What exactly does that do to the competitive landscape, especially for airfares and consumer prices?
You know, this case was really about the fact that competition between JetBlue and Spirit is meaningful, and I think that's reflected in the judge's opinion. In addition to that competition, the court amply found evidence that Spirit helps competition across the board and brings airline prices down for the entire industry. And so that means that the existence of Spirit and its effect on the market helps all consumers in the United States, regardless of whether you fly Spirit or not. I'm aware of reports around the continued financial viability of Spirit. And ultimately, I think that's up to Spirit. But I will say that the companies made those arguments in federal court, and ultimately our judge did not find that persuasive. Instead, he found that Spirit is a product that helps families who otherwise wouldn't be able to go on vacation. It helps the college student who wouldn't be able to come home but for Spirit's prices. And ultimately, this victory is about all of them. This is about the American consumer and the ways that they benefit from vibrant and open markets, including in the airline industry.
And so the judge was not persuaded, and the argument was made in the pleadings that the cure might result in the death of the patient, i.e. Spirit Airlines.
Again, I think ultimately that's up to Spirit, but I think rockiness in the airline industry is just a fact of life. Certainly there are exogenous factors and macro trends that all of the airlines are experiencing collectively. And so, in any potential merger, we're always thinking about the facts that are relevant to that merger and applying the law to those facts. And here, the fact was that Spirit was still exerting competitive pressure on JetBlue and other airlines.
I want to bring in our airline expert, Phil LeBeau, for a question or two. Phil?
Doha, my question for you is, what does this say about the proposed merger between or the acquisition of Hawaiian Airlines by Alaska Airlines? Are you reviewing that right now? And when do you expect the DOJ to say, yeah, we're going to fight this, or we got no issue here?
I appreciate the question, but again, I can't confirm or deny the existence of any investigation. And I would say, without talking about any particular company, for every merger that comes before us, we're always thinking about what is the competition at stake in that particular merger, and we do a sober assessment of the facts and, again, apply the law to those facts.
Well, let me ask the question that everybody on Wall Street seems to be asking. When it comes to airlines, we're not talking about other mergers, but when we're talking about airlines, Joe Biden's administration has zero interest in seeing any more consolidation. Is that an accurate statement?
You know, I think that those sweeping statements are more emotional than fact-based, but it is true that the president is a champion of competition and markets and issued an executive order in July 2021 that declared that it was the policy of the Biden administration to vigorously defend competition across all industries. And so, again, we're going to think about the facts and the law and every single merger that comes before us. But thinking about airlines more broadly, there's no question that airline consolidation has been a challenge. We've seen prices go up. And so I would remind everyone that JetBlue itself has complained about consolidation in this industry for a very long time. And as we noted when we announced this merger challenge way back in March, we agree with JetBlue's diagnosis, but ultimately don't agree with its cure. The answer for competition is not consolidation, it's competition.